Hi, everyone. Well, it's great to be here today. Usually I'm up on stage talking about what I do for a living, which is social media for Dunkin' Donuts. Great job, lots of sweet perks, if I can say so myself. But today is especially exciting for me because I'm here to talk about something more personal. Some of you might not know this, but actually, for the past 7 years, I have run a personal blog called The Savvy Bostonian, and it's something I started almost on a whim. I really wanted a creative outlet in my life, and I'd always loved writing and photography, and one day the light bulb went on that, wow, I should start a blog and share some of this content with others. What I didn't realize in starting a personal blog, essentially as a hobby, is how much it would teach me about myself. It's really been a driving force in my life over the past 7 years, and it's forced me to look at what I'm passionate about in life, but it's also helped me to really take an important pivot and drive my career in the direction that I wanted to go in. So today, I wanted to share a few learnings with you that I have gained over the past 7 years, and what I'm hoping to do is inspire you to look at your passion projects, your hobbies, what you do outside of work, and how that can really be a driving force in achieving goals in life. So without further ado, one of the first lessons that I learned was when I was starting my blog. So it's October of 2006, and I'm a public relations coordinator at a really big company in Boston. I love my job. I'm having a lot of fun, but again, I wanted that creative outlet. So when I decided to really take the plunge and start a blog, the first thing that kind of washed over me, which is something I think that happens to a lot of us, which is, can I do this? I was scared about putting myself out there. What would my friends think about the content? Would they make fun of me? What would my coworkers think? Would they think that this is appropriate for me to be doing outside of work? Would the layout be terrible? I mean, the list goes on, and I think sometimes in life, we focus too much on the negatives and not on the opportunity. And for me, the opportunity was just having fun, having a creative outlet, and what I ultimately learned was a couple things. So number one, it doesn't always have to be perfect when you first start out. Embrace the fact that sometimes done is better than perfect, and embrace that it takes a lot of trial and error to get there. If you go to my blog today, there's a million things that I would like to change about it, a million things that I would like to do differently, but over the past 7 years, I haven't let that hold me back from publishing a stream of regular content, and I think that ultimately has made a big difference. The second lesson I learned was one of perspective. So, I mentioned to you I was working as a public relations coordinator. I was pitching journalists. I was pitching bloggers. And all of a sudden, about a year or so into starting my blog, people started pitching me. They started saying, hey, will you come to this event and cover it? And I was like, wait a minute, you actually want me to come and write about an event of yours? It was such a role reversal. And I think what it ultimately taught me was the value of understanding your audience. So a lot of the pitches that I got were completely off topic, something I would never write about in a million years. I'm not a mom with kids. I'm probably not going to write about stuff that, the kid-friendly activities that you're pitching me. But a lot of publicists actually went to the extra effort to show me that they had read a couple of my blog entries, they knew what I was interested in, and I really appreciated people that went to that next level. They understood that they were sending a piece of communication to an audience and they wanted to make it as relevant as possible. And those are people that I've continued long, almost friendship-like relationships with over the past 7 years. So ultimately, I think for me, personally, that was a valuable lesson, but professionally, it really made me hold myself to a higher standard when I was pitching people. And then also, when I later became involved in social media, it gave me a very important perspective with those one-to-one consumer communications and really making sure what you're sharing with people is something that they actually want to hear from you. I think it's really easy as a marketer to say, I just need to get this content up on Facebook and spam, and put everything out there. But if you can give people something that they think is interesting and they ultimately want to share and really amplify that word of mouth conversation, that's an important lesson. So if you ever have a chance to do a role reversal in life and really put yourself in someone else's shoes, I highly recommend it. So on to a defining pivot. So as I mentioned, I started out in corporate PR. I still kind of have that background. I still do a little bit here and there. I found myself in a job interview for this really cool travel website, and they were saying to me, you know, you have a great background, you can write, but really prove to us that you have an editorial mindset. And I was like, I have a blog. Let me tell you about my blog and what I've learned and what I do. And it had really never occurred to me at that point to put my blog on my resume. But I realized, you know, like light bulb went on, Jessica, that what you do outside of work can help you get the job that you want. So I didn't have experience running a corporate blog for a company, but the company ended up hiring me and letting me run theirs. So something that I was doing outside of work actually helped me make a huge difference. And it was that job that I took that ultimately helped me realize that I wanted to do social media, that that was my passion, that was what I wanted to pursue, and that's what ended up getting me to Dunkin' Donuts. So discovering new passions. So obviously I learned a lot about myself career-wise, but what about life outside of work? You know, life outside of work is very important. So one day I was kind of tweaking and rejiggering and playing around with my blog, and I realized that I hadn't written a lot of recipe content in a while. And I remember thinking I was very stressed out, I was really busy, I just didn't have a lot of personal time. And I remembered how much I enjoyed allocating like an hour or two on Sundays to cook for the week. So it actually kind of made me stop and think, you know, you should really try and prioritize your schedule and your time better so you have your Sunday evenings free to do this. Because ultimately you're more relaxed for the work week, you're happier, and you have delicious food and baked goods to eat all week. So that was really important for me. And then last but certainly not least, all of these things really culminated to a valuable lesson to be the driving force in your life. I really believe that if there's something that you want to go after, you can use things that you do outside of your work to help give you that skill set that you need to do it. So for me, it was starting a blog, which ultimately led into kind of corporate blogging and social media. But I think there are lots of other examples that people don't necessarily think about that can play into that. So one for me, I actually thought earlier in my career that I wanted to go into sports marketing, and I used to volunteer in the press room for the Boston Breakers. I did that for a whole season, and I volunteered 5 years in a row for the Boston Marathon in the press room. And no, I wasn't there this year, and it kind of killed me to not be there. But it was a really important thing that I did, and it's something where, you know, if you volunteer for a whole season or you volunteer 5 years in a row, that becomes something you can put on your resume and that you can say, well, I'm not doing this in my day job, but here's why I think I can do this for you and your company. So volunteer activities, hobbies, passion projects, they all can really play a driving role. And I'm gonna end with a quote that my father says to me probably once a month. And I always kind of brush him off, but I think it's very relevant. He always says to me, he's like, Jessica, you are the only person that can control your destiny. If you want something in life, you need to go after it no matter what it takes. You know, if you are dedicated and driven and motivated, who is holding you back? You know, don't be the person that holds yourself back. So, you know, I think for me, even though a personal blog that's kind of written about kind of whatever lifestyle content, that to me helped kind of go along that journey and realize that he's right. You know, as much as I brush him off, he's right. You have to be the driving force in your life, and nobody besides you can control your destiny. So thank you.